Hello everyone, Richard Lewis here again with another video, and yeah, it's been a few days. Obviously we started filming E-League again, so I've been a little bit tied up, a little bit busy. So some of this stuff that I'm going to talk about on this video probably is a little bit out of date, might have had its moment, but I think in the interests of kind of summarizing my thoughts and making sure it's all on record, probably is important just to record this video all the same. We're going to talk about what happened at Northern Arena, which was a CS tournament held in Toronto, and it got to the final. Cloud9 had been playing incredibly well and made it to the final. They were up against the Brazilian team of Immortals. There was an incident on the deciding map where it became apparent that one of the Immortals players, N1 or Henny, depending on which pronunciation you prefer, actually didn't have his noise-cancelling headset on, which meant that he could hear things. And indeed, as a result of that, Immortals had took the pistol and had a lead. And when the admins realized that this had happened, the game was stopped, and it was basically, what are we going to do? Now, it says quite clearly in the rules, you have to wear noise-cancelling headsets at all time. And this is standard practice for any event that doesn't have soundproof booths. Now, I'm not really a fan of booths. I know this might seem strange. I did used to kind of advocate for them, but then I realized the kind of impracticalities of them. I think they create a degree of separation between fans and players. I don't really like them, and I think ultimately people need to accept that scientifically there really isn't such a thing as a soundproof booth anyway. You know, the lengths you would have to go to guarantee that so extreme that it simply isn't worth it. And I think noise-cancelling headsets and having white noise pumped in is certainly an acceptable alternative. Soundproof booths don't even overcome some of the potential cheating you can get by putting ringers in the crowd that can hold up things or do signals or signs or whatever, which is something that people don't really even seem to think about for some reason, even though I know firsthand people have talked about it, and I believe at some point in tournaments that's been implemented. So anyway, the whole incident really kicked off a huge swathe of drama on the CS subreddit on Twitter. And I'm just going to give my views on this, and I tweeted them at the time, and I'm going to state them very clear here. It doesn't matter whether it's an accident or not. It's clearly stated in the rules. There's a reason for it, a very good reason for it. If you can hear information from commentators, from the crowd, even from the other team, if they're shouting something, wherever the information comes from, if you can hear it, then obviously that gives you an advantage. There's absolutely no reason why a professional player at this level of the game would not know to put a noise-cancelling headset on. And when it's clearly stated in the rules, it just doesn't matter. It doesn't matter why you've done it. It simply has to be viewed as attempting to gain an advantage. Now, here's what I'll say. I'll even go one further on this, and this might tilt a few people, but I just simply don't give a fuck what you think. This is just a fact. There is no reason... there's no other reason why a professional player would do this other than to potentially gain an advantage. It's plain and simple, just saying it. You know you need to do it. It's there. You know you've got to put it on. If you don't put it on, we either have to accept two premises here. That the player is an absolute moron, right? Like literally a congenital moron that doesn't understand why they have to wear a headset, or they know that they do have to wear it, but they're just not going to put it on right now. Okay, so I think we can all agree option B is what's happened there, and therefore that player has tried to gain an advantage. I think it's a little bit cynical, honestly, and we've seen multiple players do it. Now, a couple of counter-arguments sort of came up. One was, oh, but he's Brazilian, so he doesn't understand English. Again, like, how hard do you want to fucking reach to try and justify this?
After you've been to that many events, you know A and B minimum.
Right, yeah. But not only that, right? Like, you know, this is somebody that plays in FPL, right? Like, or ESEA, sorry, I should say, in Code S or whatever the fuck they call it. This is somebody who lives in America. The idea that this guy's just bumbling around like fucking, Hercules in New York. Like, I haven't got any money. What, like, it's just obviously speak enough English to get by. Fact. All right? So that was ridiculous. And then the second counter argument was, oh, yeah, but loads of other teams did it. Brilliant. I mean, that's all right then. Sorry, my bad. Well, murder is something that has happened over the course of human history. You're absolved. There you go. It makes no sense. It's a stupid argument. And obviously that's an extreme example, and I usually hate people who do it, but come on. There's nothing here. If you get caught doing something that's against the rules, it doesn't matter if everyone else didn't get caught. You've been caught. All right? There's no invoking. But everyone else did it. There's no realm in adult life that's going to be acceptable. Now, here's what I will say. The admins at Northern Arena were fucking shit. I will say that. They were terrible. The fact that they're right, it did happen multiple times. Multiple teams were allowed to not wear the noise-cancelling headsets, and frankly, that was allowed to go on while there was admins even stood behind players at some points. That's embarrassing. That's embarrassing for your tournament. Those admins need to take a long, hard look at themselves. And indeed, just as a broader point on the video, I'm sick of this kind of the standard of admin we have in Counter-Strike, where you get these people who are so fucking wishy-washy that they don't stand up to players. And players will. This is the counterpoint to that, right? Players will actually try and use their status and influence to basically bully down an admin, to stare down an admin. And we're going to talk about that in a second when we get to the video that came out. But just in general, I've seen players do this, where they go like, oh, who the fuck are you? What do you know? Oh, well, we'll just pull out the tournament then if you're going to tell us to do that. And that's quite a common, childish, petulant thing. And, as an admin, you've got to say, fine, do it then. Like, just, I'm giving you the rule. You need to be on the server at this time. You need to be adhering to this rule. If you do not, we're going to, we'll either forfeit rounds, disqualify you, whatever the remit of the rules are. But admins panic. They're like, fucking hell, yeah, I don't want an entire community hating me for actually invoking the rules. So you get this kind of weakness. So you end up having these negotiations. And it's not a negotiation. A rule is immutable. It is written down. You have to obey to it in the You have to obey it in the interest of competitive integrity. So there was a lot of speculation about what was going on, and some of this information might be moot now, but I had people from the event messaging me and giving me constant updates about what was happening. Now, you can probably just bring this up on screen just for the purposes of breaking it up a little bit, Sam, but we're not going to play it. But one of the admins actually did come out and release a YouTube video basically explaining his point of view, which is good. I guess where there's contentious decisions, I'd like the admins to be accessible like that. I don't think the admins handled it particularly well. I don't think they handled the tournament particularly well. But I guess if you're going to come out and at least kind of own up a little bit and be transparent, that's always a good thing. That's going to help people improve. And it's going to give, perhaps people who want to be admins maybe a little bit more kind of courage, a little bit more insight into how to be better at doing it. But I got messaged by multiple people who were there. And basically this is what happened. So pistol round occurs. N1 doesn't wear his headset. They win the pistol and then win the following round. Then it turns out that it was realized by the admin team that N1 wasn't wearing the headset. This was communicated to the whole team. So they asked C9 to pause while the admins made a decision. Now, at this point, both teams don't know what's going on, because C9 have just been asked to pause, and it wasn't clear why. So they're off kilter immediately. They don't know what's going on. So you have 10 Counter-Strike players on a pause server, neither of them having an explanation as to what's going on. So if they start kind of interacting and chatting with each other, like what's happening, the players are poking each other, this kind of already starts leading to this bad feeling. So Zeus and Nothing have come off their PCs and they meet in the middle of the stage. And this is what got filmed on the video we're going to come to in a second. Now, they were literally having this argument out, just surrounded by people. And, of course, the professional thing to do is if you've got a contentious decision, you have to do it somewhere private. You can't just do it on the shop floor, especially in a day with mobile phones and everyone's got some form of recording equipment on them. But that's what happened. They were allowed to just have this like fairly fractious response to each other and the admins as well, just on the shop floor. So in the end, they were eventually ushered into a green room, and that's where they had the chat. Now, quite rightly, Cloud9 was saying it's unfair and that you can't do it regardless of the situation. That's absolutely right. These are the rules. This is what we talked about. You don't have a headset on. You've won a round. Unfortunately, at the very least, we're going to have to wind it back. I mean, that's like the minimum you would do, in my opinion. Now, Zeus, who was basically acting as the leader, the spokesperson for the team, his contention was the argument I've already said is stupid, that Henny doesn't speak English. But his point was that he speaks no English whatsoever, which is, we know that's a lie. Now, we've had Zeus on the show. I think Zeus is a cool guy. You know that. I've said that. And I understand in the heat of the moment, he's trying to do what he can to get an advantage for his team. I don't think people should be hating on him and saying he's a despicable human being. But ultimately, he's done a lot of things here that aren't really acceptable within the context of a competitive environment. Now, this situation, this debate, which the debate should never be happening, the rules are very clear, but it gets into a heated argument. And Zeus apparently really escalated and got very, very angry very, very quickly. And they were saying, well, we're going to have to make a final decision on this very soon, or this is going to get worse. Now, at this point, the head admin, who's the person who's going to have the final say, he's just fucked off. He's just gone AWOL. No one knows where he is. And the two stage admins are just like, well, yeah, but in a minute, we'll make this all important decision. And they're just, they're handling it poorly. And in the meantime, the lack of an answer, the lack of a clear and decisive answer is getting Zeus more heated up. Nothing's kind of scratching his head. What's going on? So they find the head admin. They bring him into the room. And then he has a talk with Nothing and Zeus, and they come to the conclusion that everything Zeus is saying is ridiculous, because it is. And the head admin says, we're going to go back to 0-0, and we're going to replay it from there. And Zeus actually threatened to forfeit the tournament. They were just going to forfeit the match and walk out, because he was so pissed off that they were going to do what is the only sensible thing to do. Which, again, I don't really like that. I don't really like, we'll just pull out of your tournament, then you can deal with a bunch of angry Brazilians. I don't think that's reasonable. So the message got passed along that they were going to restart. So the server admin, he wipes the logs, match medic, and everything, because, hey, we're going to restart, so we won't be needing them no more. Anyway, at this point, obviously, it's been communicated back to people that they're going to restart. And you'll know at this point, and we'll definitely talk about this as well, that Fallen even tweets out saying, they're going to replay, I'm done, laughy cry face. And again, this kind of idea of trying to influence an admin's decision, it's really unprofessional. It's not what I expect to see people who have to come to tournaments and engage in tournaments to do, because at various points in your career, you're going to need a strong admin to do what's right. Okay, so you shouldn't be the person applying pressure to admins to give decisions that you want, because eventually it'll all come around eventually that you'll need an admin to stand strong in the face of public pressure. So it looks like it's all going to be sorted, and then for some reason, a junior admin has apparently communicated it wrong to Cloud9 and to Immortals, and basically made it look like Cloud9 have the choice or something. So Cloud9 are like, well, we don't want to be in this position, and Cloud9 shouldn't be in that position. They should never be asked, well, what do you want to do about this rule? What do you want to do about the rule that exists? Can we follow the rules? Great choice. Yeah, I like that, right? It's stupid. It's pointless to ever put a player in a position or a team in a position where you're going to ask them what they want to do. So the rules, the rules that were pulled up, basically, then this they got into a debate with Immortals about whether or not a penalty counts for that particular rule. Now, it's said in the rules, and a lot of people brought these up at the time, that guess what, there's a state, if you don't obey any of the rules, you can do this, and this. Now, somehow one of the junior admins, I think the same one that was asking Cloud9 what they want to do, has somehow communicated it to Immortals falsely, saying, there are no penalties, there are no rules for that. But that penalty list applies to every rule in the tournament. So now Immortals are saying, well, fuck it, we're definitely not replaying, because it's not in your rules, but it is. So we have this ridiculous situation now where, because it's all been wiped, and Immortals are basically saying we're not going to replay, and Cloud9 have been told, well, it's kind of your choice anyway, and Cloud9 have had all this public pressure, they go, all right then, I guess we're playing from 2-0, even though a rule has been broken and an advantage has been gained by Immortals as a result of that rule break. So they end up in this ridiculous situation where they have to literally jump on a server and reenact all of the kills because Match Medic has been wiped. You kill him, you plant the bomb, I get the defuse, you shoot him, and just to work out all the exact money. Because apparently Zeus was saying, we don't want C9 to have an extra fucking penny that they would get in the third round. So this took 20 minutes just to get it back to that stage, approximately 20 minutes. So then the game's played on, and we all know how it pans out. It ends with Immortals winning. Now, the reality is Cloud9 were fucking mega tilted after that, and I'm not saying it would necessarily have made a difference, but no team should ever be put in that position. And the admins bungled this so badly. And I don't think people quite realize the gravity of how badly and how much Immortals were actually able to influence the admins and how much Immortals, through their own kind of stubbornness, basically affected this outcome. Now, I know Immortals have since apologized, and there's no beef between Cloud9 and Immortals now, but that is unacceptable for any tournament with money on the line. That is like some community level bullshit, house rules bullshit. That shouldn't be happening. So there's a few other points I wanted to make just off the back of this. And that was obviously, we saw from the video, right, at one point, even the admin was arguing, oh, well, he doesn't understand English, so it's not a big deal. Again, why an admin would embrace something like that, just as a word of advice for admins, just go with the rules. Just go what's written down. Don't speculate. It doesn't matter whether or not he can. It matters that he didn't wear the headset, and you have a rule for that, so you obey the rule. You shouldn't be getting into debates or discussion. Now, just on the point of public pressure, we saw what Fallen tweeted publicly, and Fallen's obviously a very highly respected player, very well thought of within the Counter-Strike community, certainly within the Brazilian community. We routinely call him the godfather of Brazil, Brazilian Counter-Strike. This is the guy who's basically enabled so many of these teams to get sponsorships. We know he has a very close relationship to the team that went on to be Immortals. He was very vocal when they weren't invited to ECS, when they weren't in other leagues. This is a guy who's been very critical on their behalf multiple times. So when he comes out and starts tweeting stuff like this, and including the follow-up tweet saying great decision by Cloud9. I mean, it's to their detriment. It's actually a very bad decision, and the fact that they had a decision at all is ridiculous. They know it wasn't intentional. Again, doesn't matter if it is or not, and didn't affect the outcome of the rounds. How can we possibly know that? Only pussies try to win no matter what. Now, far be it from me to put anybody on blast or to criticize any professionals that obviously I have to work with, but that's simply not acceptable. That's not cool. That's not a cool thing to do. And, I have to refresh Fallen's memory, and indeed all of your memory. If we go back to, there was a tournament called the RGM Pro Series Championship back when that Brazilian team were Luminosity, and this was in November 2015. We remember, of course, that Luminosity were on the receiving end of, again, something that should never happen at a tournament. And this was a photographer was trying to get pictures and leaned over and kicked the power out of one of the Luminosity players' PC while they were in a very competitive game against Team Liquid. Now, when this happened, Luminosity just had the expectation that, we'll replay that round. But actually, within the context of the rules, RGN, there was absolutely nothing that said Team Liquid had to do that. Now, people who remember this far back know that Luminosity got very, very heated, very, very heated, and started saying, well, this isn't sportsmanship. This is terrible. Now, it was that contentious, Cold Zero, and I can't show you the tweets, unfortunately, because I think we all know why he's had to delete his Twitter recently. But Cold Zero went on Twitter and went on a tear about how unfair it was. He said, and these were the 4 tweets which were captured by a bot on Reddit. It said, in this tournament, the American players set the rules and the organization only listen. It's great that some random guy turned first PC off in a 12-11 game and the Liquid guys don't accept to restart the round. These people can be the most garbage and toxic from NA. Simply disgusting. Thanks, Hiko, for being so stupid. Nice, fair play. So you can see right here that they went on Twitter again, they went on social media again, and were basically doing anything that they could to try and leverage public opinion, create some pressure on the admins to get a favorable decision. So it isn't the first time something like this has happened, and ultimately, this is exactly what Fallen was effectively going to criticize Cloud9 for. So it does seem ridiculous. And in the end, the admins got so fucking afraid of just enforcing what the rules were. And, you know, and the admins were the people who had said, kills have been exchanged. It's fucked up there's been a power cut, but the rules say if kills have been exchanged, we don't restart a round. And Team Liquid were then asked by admins whether or not they'd replay it. And they went, well, no, we don't have to. And Brazilian fans and the Luminosity players, including Fallen, castigated Team Liquid for that. It was a huge big deal, a huge big drama about it. And yes, of course, in the aftermath, it all gets buried and we all play nice again. But that is basically what's happened here, except you have inverted your whole outlook and saying pussies only fucking do what is necessary to win. Well, in that case, that Luminosity lineup were being incredibly pussies by your definition when they tried to do it there, because the rules were very clear. And once again, admins get bullied, cajoled into trying to make favorable decisions, and everyone starts trying to play the popularity game. You know, I've got a bigger reputation than you, so I get to dictate the rules. You get to say, I get to say what rules get enforced selectively. Now, the key thing to remember in all of this is what sportsmanship actually is. And sportsmanship is being competitive during the game, playing within the rules, and basically at the end, being respectful of your opponents, win or lose. This is what embodies sportsmanship. Sportsmanship is not refusing to accept a rule that benefits you if it's a rule. That's something else. And sure, there's been sporting examples of it. I remember there was a very old football team called Corinthians, not the Brazilian one, the English one, and they refused to benefit from penalties. And every time they did get awarded a penalty, they would simply roll it back to the goalkeeper because they didn't believe penalties should be in the game. They didn't believe that that was a fair rule. That's up to them. Certainly, if they banged it in the back of the net, no one should give a fuck. No one says, "Oh, you don't play like Corinthians used to back in the fucking 1800s." Well, obviously, no one says that. You know, sportsmanship is playing within the rules and being respectful of your opponent and respecting the rules. If anything, trying to pressure your opponents into accepting rules against them that don't exist or aren't favorable, that is not being sporting. That's not sportsmanship. So I was incredibly disappointed to see the way that this all panned out. And hopefully this stands once again as another lesson that admins, if you're an admin, remember, you're in charge. You are the avatar for the whole tournament. The rules have to go through you. If you are not sure of a rule, go find out before you say anything. It doesn't matter if players are gathering around you. Send them away. Threaten to dock them rounds. Act like a referee would. That is what your role is. You're not there to be friends with the players. The players will never have a relationship with you. They're never going to say, "Oh, great tournament you just admin there, mate. Do you want to come for some matchmaking with me?" It's never going to happen, right? What you have to think about is your responsibility to the tournament organizer, which is that rules are going to flow through you and they're going to be evenly applied regardless of what pressure you're under or who's playing. So you've got to be absolutely strict. And also as well, any player that like pressurizes admins to try and get favorable decisions, I think we need to start dishing penalties out, honestly. I'm sick and tired of it. I'm sick and tired of every time there's like a contentious decision, people all get up and start acting all ridiculous and all up in arms about it and threatening to leave tournaments and trying to disgrace, the people that just look. At the end of the day, we talk a lot about what it's going to take to get Counter-Strike to being recognized as mainstream sports, getting it to be respected. And part of that has to be that you are willing to respect the rules. Even if you think they're stupid, you know the rules before you go into a tournament. They're all there. There was clear in black and white, the rule about the headset. It's inarguable. If you sat down and watched other teams play and you noticed that other professional players didn't have their headsets on and you said nothing, you're part of the problem. So fuck you. You don't get to cry about it later. That's not how it works. So all things told, I thought this drama was fairly ridiculous. I think it continues to underline a few problems that we had. And I got to say, I feel incredibly sorry for Cloud9, who even though they accepted a ruling that was completely to their detriment, that should never have been a discussion or a debate, they still got hate from Brazilian fans. They still got called Cry 9 or whatever shit name it was. You know, they still had to put up with all of that just because they were put in a bad position by admins and their opponents. So hopefully that's the kind of thing we can leave behind. I certainly wouldn't want to see that again at any tournaments I was involved in or that I had to attend. And equally as well, I hope this doesn't get swept under the carpet, because it is kind of a serious thing. It is kind of a big deal, and we need to see less of that happening. Anyway, those are my thoughts. Thanks a lot for watching the video. See you on the next one.